am going to tell you the story of how I got to meet my long-lost relatives. Long-lost relatives. I think that's the word for it. Two of my relatives that had been adopted out as babies or toddlers. It was very emotional, and I've been waiting for a while to meet them, so I'll tell you all about that, but you know the drill, you know the deal. Before we get into it, we gotta do some channel maintenance, some channel hygiene. So, if you are new here, welcome to my nonsense. If you're old here, welcome back. Oh, geez. If you're new here, please consider hitting subscribe. And if you're old here, go double check, make sure you're subscribed, hit the like. If you like, leave a comment. It could be anything related to the video. It could just be a hello, a few emojis, whatever, as long as it's cool and respectful. Hit the notification bell. As always, I will link my tip jars down yonder in the description box. No pressure whatsoever, but every dollar or two helps. That's what allows me to continue to make content. Also, you are invited to my Patreon. Lots of story times, etc. over there. The link is down below. Okay. So, many moons ago, I did 23andMe, which is like an ancestry, you find out where you're from, where your ancestors are from, etc. I think the two big ones are 23andMe and Ancestry.com, right? So I did the 23andMe. And it will show you how many of your close relatives have taken the test. I don't know if you have to opt into that part or not. I must have opted in if that was an option. And so you'll see some names that you recognize, right? And if they're really distant, like fourth cousin or something like that, it only guesses how related you are. So you probably have no idea who, some of these people are. But sometimes you'll see one that will say, this is likely your first cousin, or something like really close, and you're like, what? And so, you message people like your aunt, like, hey, who is, like, oh, that's, I'm like, oh, and it clicks. But I saw one that said it would have been like a close relative, like a second cousin, right? There's a couple on there, and I just messaged them through the app, like, hi, we're related, just wanted to say hi. And usually I think they all message back. Some people probably think like I'm not messaging anybody back, that's a hoax, or they want money or something, but we'll call this particular relative Casey. Casey messaged back and said, wow, yeah, I've just been getting into all this, and I found out that I was adopted as a small child. Now, he would have been, so I'm on the phone with my grandma, like, what? She's like, oh yeah, we just found out about this. Casey is my sister's son, who we used to call Ricky, because he had a different name. And he was adopted out at two years old. I didn't know much more than that. I did not know my grandma's sister. My grandma did tell me, she's like, she had 2 kids, and they were both adopted out. So I didn't really know much more than that at that point. Casey did get a chance to come out and meet my grandma, because after that, it was only about a year before my grandma passed. So he got to come out and meet my grandma and some of his other relatives, because Casey lives out west. Casey lives out west. Added him on Facebook. He's got a beautiful family. He's been with his wife for many, many years. They have 2 kids together, adult kids now, because like he's my dad's age, My dad passed too, so he didn't meet my dad. And we just chat here and there on Facebook, and like the family pics and stuff like that. And every once in a while, well, like when my grandma died, It turns out Casey's entire day job is bereavement. It's in bereavement. So he recommended like a good book for me, like a really solid guy, you know. He's in a band. I don't think there's anybody else related to me that's musically inclined. So that was cool. Him and his wife are in a band. So you just learn about these things. And when you see the face, you're like, oh my God, like it reminds you of your side of the family, you know. So it's odd because you've never seen this person before or known of this person. Then you see their face and you're like, yeah, I can see it like all over their face. And when I had first talked to Casey, he knew that he found out that he had a brother, but he didn't know who or where or whatnot. So like the first time that, Casey's got a kid that lives in Chicagoland. One of his adult kids lives in Chicagoland. But the first time that he came out, I didn't get a chance to meet him. Like, I think they had to head back real early. I don't know. I can't remember what happened. So he messaged me again that he was making the trip out. I thought it was him and his wife. I thought it was like it was last time. He's like, do you want to meet for like a quick meal or something? And I was like, absolutely, let's make it happen. And then he messaged me like once he was in town, and he was like, oh, I'm meeting, you know, one of my other relatives this night if you just want to, you know, join in on that, or we can still keep like the plan to meet for it was originally lunch, but I changed it to breakfast because I'm gluten-free again. Breakfast is just easier. Or we could just do the breakfast like you planned. I was like, and then when he told me what relative it was, I'm not gonna lie, I was like, yeah, let's just keep it tomorrow. Because that's a little weird, that one. Not interested. And he's like, okay, cool. We'll see you there tomorrow. We'll see you at breakfast tomorrow. And I'm still thinking it's him and his wife, you know. So that day rolls around, and, you know, I text him that I'm on my way to the spot that we picked for breakfast. He's like, okay, we'll be there. We're on our way or something. And I'm there like 10 minutes before him, which would make sense because he's not from around here, you know. So I'm like, just looking out there, like, I got his booze, and I was looking, and I see him, I'm like, oh, and he's with a guy. And he's like, we'll call him Harry. This is Harry. And I'm like, oh, hi, Harry. I just thought, like, he traveled with a friend instead of his wife, like, because they drove out. No. He found his brother. Harry was his brother. And I'm like, okay, I gotta hear all this story, right? So first we're like, you know, hug, and then I hear the story of what he knows of how he was put up for adoption. And you gotta know that back then, adoptions were a lot shadier in general than they are now too. Like, for better or for worse. Sometimes it was a smoother process for women that wanted to do adoption, and sometimes for worse. Sometimes there was shady stuff going on with, like, anyways. In this case, he was, I think, given to, okay, so my grandma's sister, we'll call her Sarah. Sarah had already moved out of the house. My great-grandma had 14 children. So the oldest three were out, and she was one of the oldest three. Sarah was. And I think she was kind of being young and reckless or whatever. And back then, this is like a seriously Catholic family, right? Seriously Catholic family. That probably caused a lot of shame, and she probably didn't know what to do when she got pregnant. So what she did was she had little Ricky first, and gave him at some point, I don't know if it was at birth or like a few months down the road, to her own mom, who already had the 14 and then 11 of which were still in the house, right? So my great-grandma tried her best. But 3 months or a few months, 6 months, I don't know, after she received Ricky, her own husband died. And she was left with 11 children on her own. On her own. I can't imagine what a tough decision this was. I can't. Of course, I'm like crying at the restaurant, like not sobbing, but I'm like, okay. And then she made a lawyer, like it was just done through one single attorney. And they came to get little Ricky. He was 2, so he made it to 2 with his grandmother and all the aunts and uncles and stuff in the house. And you can imagine all the aunts and uncles have this memory, like this, like horrible memory of parting ways, you know. And I guess what would be my great grandma, like walked him out to the lawyers with the lawyer, and she put a little rosary in her, in his hand, and was like kissing all over him, like I'll always love you, Alice. Okay, all right. So the lawyer places him with, he said, a great family. Okay. He got raised great. He had great parents, great family, so all is well, right? But he did say, he's like, you don't get adopted out at that age without trauma. He's like, so, you know, some stuff did make a lot of sense. And he has no memory of life before his adopted family. How he even found out that he was always told he was adopted, but not much details. And I don't even know how much details they had, you know. But like his oldest sister in the adopted family, she was 16 when she told him. She's like, I don't know that much. She's like, I know. She goes, I think it was a Mexican lady, which was wrong because my great grandma was not Mexican, but her husband was. She said with a bunch of kids. So he's thinking his mom had a bunch, but it was my grandma that had a bunch of kids, you know, originally before he found out. So he told me that story. Get to patch up my tears on that. And then we talk about, you know, my family, and I'm meeting Harry, and Harry wants to see a picture of my toddler or whatever. And they were like, oh, he seems so wild. And I was like, he's absolutely wild, but he's sweet. He's like the sweetest maniac. So then, you know, I'm talking to Harry, and Harry still lived in like the same state, the same area. Harry ended up finding out that Harry knew he was adopted, but he didn't know much, you know. He hadn't connected all the dots. Well, and then Harry had been on Ancestry, which is a totally different platform than 23andMe, and I wish they would kind of merge, because you do need to know this stuff. You do need to know this stuff. I mean, there could be people out there getting in relationships with people that they're related to because they don't know. And we're not just talking about adoption. There's a lot of illegitimate from the beginning of time. From the beginning, this is not new, okay? There's a lot of children that don't know who they're real. I mean, it's going to shake some shit up. It shakes some shit up when you take these tests. I'm still waiting for a sibling to pop up on there. Like, okay, but anyways, not that I know. I'm just saying, like, my dad was kind of out there, so I'm always like, I wonder if there's a sibling out there. So Harry knew he was adopted. He didn't know much more. In fact, Harry said he knows he's adopted, but he has a feeling that the guy that raised him, so we're talking about people that are in their mid-60s, okay? It's like he has a feeling that his adopted dad was his real dad. And like, he's like, well, we'll get into that story one day. He's like, we don't have time for all that now or whatever. So I don't know what that's about. But Harry was on Ancestry.com, and then because of what Casey was learning, he did Ancestry.com too, and saw that he had a half-brother on Ancestry.com. Smart move to like check there, and crazy that Harry was even on there. Now Harry I'm surprised he even took it, because Harry was a computer programmer for many, many years. And so he's like hyper vigilant on his social media. He's like, hey, I'm not really on, he's hyper vigilant, whatever. But he did. And apparently when Casey had first started messaging Harry on Ancestry, like, I believe you would be my brother, but Harry was ignoring the messages because he was like, this sounds fishy, this, which it can be. He's like, no, I just took this test and there's people saying, So what Casey did was hire a genealogist, somebody that's certified in this stuff. And that way the genealogist could approach anybody for him and let them know, like, I'm certified in genealogy, I'm the professional, kind of like, here's my badge. If you would like to open the conversation through me, you can. And the genealogist got in touch with his brother, Harry. It was like, no, this is legit. You do have a half-brother, and this is Casey, your half-brother. And so then they connected. Then Harry finds out who his family is. Well, it turns out he went to school with a lot of his cousins and relatives, which is why I say, again, how dangerous it is not to know, because you might not know somebody is your cousin, and in high school and college, as an adult, you're just out in the world dating, you don't know. It's weird, right? That you just might not know who your own cousin is. Now, they were shocked because they were like, they used to do tests before you get married to make sure you're not related. Me and my husband never had a test. I mean, we know we're not, because we know our parents and stuff, but we never had the test. Do they still do the tests in some states? I don't know. Was the test for that? I know you used to have to get blood work before you got married. Is that what it was for? Or was it just like we're making sure you guys are clean? I don't know. Now they don't know much about their dads. It was just so cute getting to see them get to be brothers in their 60s. Now, this is a little bit sad, but okay, we were talking about, the mom, Sarah, giving them up, and Casey had asked some of the older relatives, like, what do you remember about my mom? And one of my relatives said, well, she liked a martini, okay? And if that's what you remember about somebody, you can probably bet one of your bottom dollars that there was alcoholism. And as you know, I am an alcoholic. I've been clean not clean because I do other stuff. I've been alcohol free for many, many years. And that was my unmanageable substance. Now, I always have to keep an eye on what I'm doing because I had that tendency. But everything else that I do, I have manageable. Everybody walks their own path and recover. And some people can't do that, and that's totally understandable. But anyways, so that's what they knew. And I said, that kind of, makes sense. She was having a tough time. And anyways, Harry says, and I said, I was or am an alcoholic. I can't handle alcohol. And Harry says, yeah, me neither. I'm terminal. And I said, oh, liver? And he said, yeah. He drank his whole life and eventually got a terminal liver disease. He's medicated. Terminal can mean a lot of things. It can mean a lot of things, and they can do a lot with medicine now. So he said that basically the meds that he's on try to reroute what the liver does to other organs. So it's hell on your other organs, right? So you can't feel amazing, but it's keeping him alive for now. And he just does this one day at a time, and he looked comfortable and well. Okay. So now I know how much deeper the predisposition is. And some people will argue, but there's science behind it. There's predispositions. Which means that, well, your other college buddies are going out to party and then they call it quits. You're not calling it quits like that. and it doesn't take long before that can spiral. Or, you know, some people drink, go out and drink for 3 hours, and that's what you said you were going to do, and then 6 hours later you're still drinking. You're like, why did I say I was going to do? Right. It's just, you're just predisposed to this alcoholism like behaviors, and then it just can keep rolling. So now I know I have it on, you know, both sides of that, because my grandpa all the way up, and then my grandma was not, but her family had a lot of it. And then I asked, like, what did they know much about their dads? Did their dads know about him? And again, like, Harry's dad, he thinks could have even been his adopted dad. I don't know how he's going to solve that. I don't know. And then Casey's dad, this is really interesting. Casey's dad was a chiropractor. But by the time that, and he was Jewish, because Jewish was in his 23andMe. No, by the time that he found that family and the genealogist, you know, consulted them, the dad had dementia. So he was not, the family said, you know, we're not going to have anybody talk to him in this state. You wouldn't get accurate answers anyways. And Casey understood. I don't know if I would or not. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know how understanding I would be of that or not. It would be something I would have to think about. But eventually he did meet a few cousins and stuff on that side, and who knows, you know, he could meet more. This is still pretty new. So, like, what a midlife adventure, or like three-quarter life adventure this is going to be, you know. But he was a chiropractor, unaware of it. We don't know. Did he know about Casey at all? Not at all. But the siblings said they had no idea. So if he did know, he didn't tell his own children. And we're talking about, like, the adventure of this in your mid-60s to go out, and then now you're traveling and meeting people and seeing their faces, and he said it's kind of tricky, because when you approach people, at first they might think I'm just some weirdo or some guy looking for, like, money or something. He's like, but also, as you approach people, you could run into some weirdos that are like, oh, who's this? I wonder if I can get something out of him. You know, so you are opening this door to a bunch of people that you're fully related to, but you have no idea, you know. So anyways, I had to get to my doctor's appointment, which I'm getting back on my anxiety meds. All my other issues, like, have to be tabled because they require so much more extensive stuff that I can't put on the plate right now. But we took some pictures. Well, we had the waiter take some pictures. It didn't come out that good because there was a bright window behind us, and I should have known from the lighting, like, you have to be in front, or the lighting has to be in front of you, you know. But whatever. We took some pictures, and I gave him hugs and said goodbye, and you know, I'll continue to see Casey on my social media. Harry, I don't know. I'll probably try to get his contact info and shoot him a text once in a while or something, because, you know, he's not on social media. But it was very sweet, and yeah, I wish my grandma could have stayed alive longer and really got to know her nephew better as an adult, but I'm glad that she got to meet him. And he was still on this trip. He was going to see about, like, you know, 10 more people on this trip, so pretty exciting. And I'll be watching his Facebook to see all the pictures of who he meets up with and everything. Anyways, if you watch this all the way to the end, thank you very much. I hope you have a good rest of your day,